Hi all, my name is Kumar. I'm an SAP ABAP trainer. Today I'm going to give the demo on SAP ABAP, what is ABAP is and how the ABAP consultant will come into the picture in the whole SAP. So before going to start the session, I just want to give an introduction about myself. My name is Kumar. I have total 9 plus years of experience into SAP, where I have worked into the areas, technical areas of SAP ABAP, XRPI, PRBW, and HANA, as well as ABAP and HANA, and functional areas like SDMM, HR, and IS utilities, and also have 5 plus years of experience into training experience, as well as corporate training experience, and as well as online training experience. So this is all about myself. So before going to start, today I want to give we're going to have the demo on what is SAP is, what how the ERP has come into the picture, and how an SAP consultant has come into the picture, and what are the roles and responsibilities which are involved with the ERP system. Okay, so let's start with the introduction of the ERP system. Before going to start the introduction about the ERP system, what are the main primary objectives of each company? The main primary objective of each company is to make money. How they make money? By doing the business. How the company can do the business? By manufacturing the product or giving the service to the customer. So here, consider you are the company and the customer have given an order to manufacture 1,000 pens. So then what is the general process which is going to happen in between a customer and the company? The general process is you'll be giving the quotation to the customer. According to the customer quotation, they'll be giving the order to you, and then accordingly you will be preparing the raw materials and then manufacture the goods and finally deliver the goods to the customer. So this is the general process which is going to happen in between a customer and the company. Okay, so here as I told you, if you want to manufacture the goods, if you want to manufacture the goods to the customer, here the raw materials has to be available in the company. So if the company doesn't have raw materials, they'll be purchasing these raw materials from the vendors. Okay, so company not only has to manage the vendors, not only has to manage the customers, they also have to manage to produce the reports on a monthly basis or a periodic basis by showing the progress of the business. And also in all aspects of the business, okay, and they also have to manage the employees, bank accounts, inventories, etc. So do you think whether this can be managed by a single person of the company? Obviously no. If you see an example in the supermarkets or a fair prices where each and every department is going to manage by a skilled person and who has a knowledge of that particular department, obviously. So in this case, what the company has done is, where in order to do this, okay, not to make things manageable, they have introduced the departments in each and every company. Okay, departments like finance department, manufacturing department, human resource department, etc. So when the customer has given an order, the order status will be passed from one department to other department. Consider in the olden days when the systems are not implemented, how these departments are going to communicate each other to know the status. For example, if the finance department wants to communicate with the manufacturing department to know the status, so what are the modes of communication do you think when they don't have a systems in the olden days? The first thing is they used to communicate through the phone calls or through individual in-person has to go there to know the status. Due to this, what the company is going to lose is the time, money, man, and material, and in the worst cases they might be losing their customers. To avoid this, what the company has done is they have introduced the systems in each and every department and with the internet connections. Now, do you think whether this the finance department person can enter into the manufacturing department to know the status? Is it possible or not? Obviously, no. I can say no. Why? Why? Even though they got the systems, even though they got the internet connections, why they can't connect to the manufacturing department? See, in each and every department, every person will not be having the authorizations to each and every person in the department. Only few persons who has the manager levels, they'll be having the authorizations. For that, whoever the managers or the persons or consultants will be having authorization, they can only enter into the manufacturing department. All of them can't access the information, update the information. So even though they got the systems, even though they got the internet connection, still there is a communication gap which is going to happen in between these departments. So to reduce this gap, to fill this gap, the companies have introduced the central system, what you call as an ERP system. What do you call ERP system? E for enterprise, R for resource, and P for planning. According to the proper plan, according to the proper resource, they have introduced a central system with a single database where all these departments are going to communicate each other and update the information. So this type of all the departments in SAP we call as the modules, like finance module, supply chain module, MM, HR, and customer relationship modules. Okay, so this is what the ERP is. If you take an example of ERP, for example, if the customer places an order to manufacture 1,000 pens, where the sales division will come into the picture. So what the sales division will do is will check whether the stock exists in the warehouse or not, and if the stock exists, they will ship and process the goods to the customer. So when they are delivering the goods to the customer, the finance division will come into picture and provide the invoice to the customer and take the payment from the customer. Correct? So this is a very simple process which I explained you in the company. In real time, there might be n number of processes which are going to takes place, that we'll be discussing in the further sessions. Okay, so as an ERP before, as an example for the ERP, before the ERP, there will be a jumbling process which is going to happen in between these departments. There's no transparency of the status which is going to take place in between these departments. When you come after ERP has come into the picture, when the customer places an order, this is going to pass with the workflow concept of the way the sales order is going to sales department, and each and every department is going to communicate each other and update the information. Okay, so this is how the ERP has come into the picture. So by listening to all these things, there might be advantages of using the ERP system. What are the advantages of using the ERP system? The first and foremost advantage is the single database. ERP has a single database where all these modules are involved in the ERP. Okay, where they can communicate each other and update the information. And coming to the security wise, how come a security can be an advantage? Each and every department has their own security levels, and finance division person can't enter into the manufacturing department, and manufacturing department person can't enter in the finance transactions, can't run the finance transactions. And coming to the reporting capabilities, these reporting capabilities will tell you for the users to take the reports on a monthly basis or a periodic basis by showing the progress of the business, as we discussed in the earlier. And every product will be having some advantages as well as disadvantages. What are the disadvantages which we can consider for the ERP? First is the cost. How come a cost can be a disadvantage? To run the ERP has lot many modules. To buy the ERP is very costly, and by default a few modules for the ERP will come into picture. If you want any additional modules to be run into your ERP system, you need to buy those modules. And coming to the skills, how come a skill can be a disadvantage? For example, if you want to implement your ERP in your company, okay, you have a company and you want to implement the ERP in your system, but what are the employees who are existing in your employee, who are working in your organization, they don't have a knowledge of the ERP. So in that case, you might be thinking of the two ways, like either you are going to give the training to the existing employees by making more funds on the trainers, right? And other thing is, what you can do is you'll be hiring the new employees who has a knowledge of that particular, who has the knowledge of the ERP system, and by paying more pay scales, another again the cost has come into the picture. So that's where we can consider skill as one of the disadvantage of using the ERP system, but it is not exactly a disadvantage. And coming to the flexibility wise, how come a flexibility can be a disadvantage? Consider you have a company and you want to implement the ERP system into the company. And when you are implementing the ERP follows its naming standards, own naming standards, and the customer has to own with the ERP standards. The customer can't use their own naming standards. That's why the flexibility will come into picture. For example, in your system, you're maintaining the customer details with the customer number. But when you come to the ERP, it might be a business partner. It might be calling us business partners. So that's where the flexibility is going to a disadvantage of the ERP. It's not an exact disadvantage, but we can consider as one of the disadvantage of using the ERP system. And every product will be having some packages. Like for example, MS Office is also a product. So it consists of packages like MS Office, PowerPoint, MS Access, MS Excel, and all these things are the packages which are involved in the MS Office. Similarly, ERP has some of the packages like SAP, Oracle, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, SAS, etc. In that, we are going to learn about the SAP. So, any questions till now? Fine, that's great. So here, coming to the introduction to the SAP. SAP is founded by 5 IBM employees of the German company. Okay, as one of the founders as Hasso, Partner, Klaus, and the Klaus Wellner, and Dietmar Hopp, Hans Werner, Hector. So these are the five founders of the SAP. We should not call as SAP. We should call as SAP. Okay, and it has started with the release version from 1.08 to the latest version ECC 6.0 we call as Enterprise Central Component or Enterprise Core Component. So we see the architecture of R3 system. SAP is an R3 system, R for real-time and 3 for 3-tier architecture, where it contains the 3 layers, and it is going to work on the concept called as client-server architecture. So what do you mean by client and what do you mean by server? And the client is the way which is going to send the request to the server, and the server is going to send the response to the client. So it is a two-way communication which is going to happen in between the client and the server. Okay, and we see the architecture of the R3 system, which contains the 3 layers: presentation, application, and the database. In the front end, the presentation which is going to use as SAP GUI. The graphical user interface GUI is the graphical user interface where the users are going to send the request to the database through the middle layer, what you call as an application layer. Okay, so this database uses a concept called as RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. What do you call Relational Database Management System? In the Relational Database Management System, in the system where we manage all the database tables with the relationship. Okay, and here is a place where we see the 3-tier architecture environment, where it contains a presentation, application, and database layer. And these are the servers which are going to configure in the SAP by the clients. Like if you see on the left side, if the presentation, application, database is going to install in one system like your desktops or laptops, then it is called as a central system where one system is going to involve. And when you come to the right side corner top, if the presentation is in one system and application and database is in another system, then it is called as a distributed presentation system where 2 computers are involved. Like you see on the left side corner down, if the presentation application is in one system and database is in another system, then it is called as a 2-tier client server architecture where 2 computers are involved. If you see the presentation, application, and database in 3 different servers, then it is called as a 3-tier architecture. Okay, it is called as 3-tier architecture where, for example, in the real-time, the client can be maintained there, the presentation server in the India, and the application server in the Singapore, and the database in the US. This is what you call as a 3-tier architecture. And we see the architecture of the application server. So as we know that when your users are sending the request from the presentation server, all the requests passes through the application layer. Here in the application layer we can find the few of the components like dispatcher, queue, word process, buffers, and the row alias, and finally then it comes to the database. For example, if 4 users are sending the request from the presentation server, dispatcher will collect all those requests and keep in the queue in the first in first order basis. What do you mean by first in first order basis? Whichever the request comes first, that will be kept into passed to the free work process. WP is the work process which executes the request and send finally to the database. The database in turn sends the response to the same work process through the same dispatcher, and then finally displays the output. So here, when the vendor enters the vendor number and clicks on the checkbox address, this vendor details is going to display. This vendor details is going to pass to the dispatcher, where we can see these dotted lines, and it is going to go to the queue, from the queue to the work process, from the work process to the database, and in turn this database will send the response to the same work process and through the same dispatcher, and finally it is going to display the output. So here, whatever the requests you'll be sending or whatever the response you will be getting, that is what you call as a dialog step in the SAP. What you call? We call as dialog step in the SAP. So any questions? Okay, let's move forward. So SAP follows some methodology what we call as an ASAP methodology. This ASAP is nothing but accelerated SAP. Its purpose is to help design SAP implementation in the most efficient manner possible. Its goal is to effectively optimize time, people, quality, and other resources using a proven methodology to implementation. Here, there are 5 phases of implementation. SAP focuses on tools and training wrapped up in a 5-phase process-oriented roadmap for guiding implementation. Okay, so the first phase is the project preparation. This first phase initiates with the retrieval of information and resources. It is an important time to assemble the necessary components for the implementation. So some important milestones that need to be accomplished for phase 1 include like obtaining a senior level management or a stakeholder support, identify clear project objectives, architect an efficient decision making process, and creating an environment suitable for change and re-engineering, and building a qualified and capable project team. So in summary, we can get from project preparation, collecting of the resources, collecting of the manpower, collecting of the requirement at one place. By this, our SAP consultants is going to prepare a document called as business blueprint document. So who are the consultants which are involved in the SAP? In the SAP, we have 3 types of consultants. The person who is going to install the SAP we call and configure the users we call as SAP basis consultant. Once the SAP system is been installed, is been ready, then you need to take the requirement from the customer and then configure your SAP database with the requirement of the customer. That will be done by your functional consultant, who is going to take the requirement from the customer and configure the data as per the requirement of the customer. So there are different types of SAP functional consultants like SAP SD, SAP FICO, and SAP MM, and SAP PP consultants. So once the requirement comes, the data has been configured, then we need to develop the front-end application, which is going to develop by SAP ABAP consultant. ABAP is nothing but Advanced Business Application Programming for database. So now we need to know, not only ABAP is going to write the code, they have to know where exactly his role will come into the picture. Okay, so this functional concerns is going to involve in the project preparation, and they will be preparing a document what we call as business blueprint document. So SAP has defined a business blueprint phase to help extract information about your company that is necessary for implementation. These blueprints are in the form of questionnaires that are designed to probe for information that uncovers how your company does business. So as such, they also serve to document the implementation. So each business blueprint document essentially outlines your further business process and business requirements. The kind of questions asked are to the particular business function as seen, like what information do you capture on a purchase order and what information is required to complete a purchase order. So like this, there might be a questionnaire is during the business blueprint document. So according to this, the functional consultant is going to prepare another document, what you call as functional specification. So that is going to pass to the technical consultants, okay, where they'll be developing the code in the development servers. So we have a, so if anybody asks where exactly the ABAP role will come into the picture, and the whole SAP methodology is in the whole 5 phases of implementation is realization. Realization is a phase with the completion of the business in phase 2. Okay, functional experts are now ready to begin the configuring SAP. The realization phase is broken into 2 parts. Like your SAP consultant team helps you configure your baseline system called the baseline configuration, and your implementation project team fine-tunes that system to meet all your business and process requirement as the part of fine-tuning configuration. And the initial configuration completed during the baseline configuration is based on the information that you provided in your blueprint document. The remaining approximately 20% of your configuration that was not tackled during the baseline configuration is completed during the fine-tuning configuration. So this fine-tuning usually deals with the exceptions that are not covered in the baseline configuration. This final bit of tweaking represents the work necessary to fit your special needs. All over in the realization phase, they'll be developing the code. Okay, where exactly they'll be developing the code. Here in SAP, we have a SLD, system landscape directory, where you have all the servers like SAP development servers, SAP quality assurance servers, and SAP production servers. So here they'll be developing the code in the SAP development. Once the development is done, all the objects will be moved to the quality assurance server, what you call as a testing server. Okay, so testing server is the server where we test with the different types of testing phases. Okay, different types of testing phases as in unit testing, integration testing, user acceptance testing. All these testings will be done in the testing system, and once it is done, it will be moved to the go live and support. Okay, so here in the final preparation, okay, as a fourth phase also concentrates on fine-tuning of your configuration before go live, and more importantly the migration of the data from your old system or the systems to SAP. Okay, so here now it is important to perform preventative maintenance checks to ensure optimal performance at your SAP system. Okay, so here that's where the ASAP methodology is come into the picture. And coming to the go live and support, here the actual the go live milestone itself is easy to achieve. A smooth and uneventful go live is another matter altogether. Okay, here the actual data of the customer is going to test it. That is what the go live and support is. Okay, these are the consultant, these are the areas in the SAP, and the concept of SAP ABAP is the client data is going to store in a system, non-SAP system, what you call as a legacy system. This data is going to move to the SAP database, where all the data is going to store in the tables, what you call as a data dictionary. So in SAP, we'll be dealing all with the transaction codes, a 4-digit code which will be running, like SE11 is for data dictionary and SE38 is for ABAP, and then we'll be designing the screens using the concept called as module programming. Once where we will be sending our legacy data to the SAP database through these flat files, and this flat files is going to upload using the concept called as BDC data batch data communication, and through the interface SAP standard screens or SAP custom screens. If you want to send the data to the custom screens, we will be developing these screens using the concept called as module programming, and this will be developed by either SE38 or SE80 transaction. Once the data has come into the data dictionary, okay, now the client requires a report to be developed. So that report is going to develop using SE38 or SE80. So once the developer has been reported, now the client requires to develop an invoice according to the customer. So the invoice is going to prepare using the concept called as SAP scripts or SAP smart forms, SAP ABAP forms for more advanced level in the PDF formats. And then if the client requires additional feed to be included in the SAP standard screens, then we go for the concept called as UREXITs or baddies. Baddies is the advanced concept which is will be using with the concept of OOPS concept. So this is where all the concepts of ABAP is going to involve. So this is where we log on to the SAP. When we install the SAP GUI front end, SAP logon pad is going to come into your desktop or laptops, and this is a login screen where you will log into the SAP, where by giving the client number and the username and password. And this is the initial screen which is provided by the SAP. Is the IDS International Demo Education System, which is provided by the SAP with the predefined data and predefined tables within predefined programs. We can see some database if you want to see any data for material master. So here you can see, click on display contents, and this is where the selection screen where we enter the input. You click on execute. This is the data which is covered by the SAP. And if you want to develop the code, action C38, the ABAP editor where we write the code. I'll see a sample programs where we can see the data, how is code is going to write in the ABAP. So here is the code which we have written. So finally is to retrieve the data from different tables. What are the tables we use here? From which tables we are getting the data will be giving here, and we'll be preparing the structures accordingly, and we'll be writing the select statements like this. In the whole ABAP we can see the select statement slogan like select from into where, selecting what are the fields from which table and into which internal table. We use the temporary tables where we'll be fetching only the few fields from the database, right? So according to what condition you are fetching the data is the most important here. And if you click on execute, and this is a selection screen where we develop, click on execute, this is the data where we display. So this is how we develop the code. Okay, so this ABAP syllabus which you are going to cover. So this is where we use introduction of the ABAP dictionary. Okay, we'll be learning about the packages, message classes, selection screens, open SQL statements, intent tables, debugging techniques, where we how to debug the code, and how the program is being in the background, and troubleshoot if you have any problems in the program. The reusability concepts and some of the reports, different types of reports, and the module programming. Okay, and batch data communication, SAP scripts, smart forms, AV reports, runtime analysis, crops, applications, and ALI docs, BAPIs, user exits, hoops, and miscellaneous concepts like transport organizer, workbench, task creation, release objects, and all those things. Okay, so this is where the SAP, how we are going to, the duration and the process of the training is 40 to 60 hours training, and for weekdays it will be daily 1 hour. For weekends it will be 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, Saturday 2 hours and Sunday 2 hours. We'll be providing all the materials in the form of PPTs or SAP materials, and also we'll be explaining from the basic fundamentals, and we'll be telling you the real-time basic business scenarios and executing our IES systems, and we'll be providing you the exercises after each and every session, and also we'll be giving the, and also will be conducting with the test after each and every session. This cannot be informed for you. All of a sudden we'll be conducting the mock test. Also the resume, we'll be doing the resume preparation for you. and will also tell you how to prepare the technical specification based on the functional specifications, either templates. Fine. So if you, for more details, you can contact me on Gmail, abaptrainer2601@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Skype ID abaptrainer2601. Thank you. Thanks for time. Bye.